Hello and welcome to On the Record. My name is Mary Malaney and this is my record collection. This week we're taking a look at Brigadoon with book and lyrics by Alan J. Lerner. The music is by Frederick Lowe. The two met in 1942 at the Lambs Club and started their partnership. And before this, they had two flops on Broadway, but Brigadoon was their first hit. They still needed to audition the show over 50 times in order to get enough investors. The original director was Robert Lewis, the founder of the Actors Studio, and the choreography was done by the fabulous Agnes DeMille. The original cast included David Brooks, Pamela Britton, and Marion Bell. Bell and Lerner met during the show, and she became the second of his 8 wives, though the romance dissolved 6 months after the show closed. Talk about a showmance. At 16 years I was blue and sad, till father said I should find a lad. So out I went to become a wife, and found the real love of my life. His name, it was Chris, and the last was McGill. I met him one night picking flowers on the hill. He had lots of charm and a certain kind of touch, and a certain kind of eagerness that pleased me very much. So there, neath the moon where romance often springs, I gave him my heart and a few other things. I don't know how long that I stayed upon the hill, but the moon had disappeared and so had Christopher McGill. So I went home and I thought I'd die, till father said, make another try. So out I went to become a wife, and found the real love of my life. He came from the lowlands, said he. I saw him and knew he was perfect for me. Just one thing that puzzled me, and it always will, was he told me he had heard about me from his friend McGill. We quick fell in love and went down by the creek. The next day he said he'd be back in a week, and I thought he would, for now how was I to know that of all the lowland laddies there was never one as low. I told my father the awful truth. He said, what difference you got your youth? So out I went mad to be a wife, and found the real love of my life. Oh, he was a poet, a rhymer was he. He read me some verse he had written for me. He said they would move me, these poems from his pen, and how right he was, because they moved me right into the glen. We stayed there till dawn came and lighted the sky. Then I shook his hand and I bid him goodbye. I never went back, for what I had heard was true, that a poet only writes about the things he cannot do. So Pa said, look out for men who think. You'll be more certain with men who drink. So out I went to become a wife, and found the real love of my life. Oh, he was a soldier, a fine Highland son. He told me about all the battles he won. He wasted his time telling me about his might, for one look at him decided me to not put up a fight. We skirmished for hours that night in the glen, and I found the sword has more might than a pen. But as I was drowsing, I snored to my dismay, and he thought it was a bugle and got up and marched away. So Pa said, daughter, there must be one, someone who's true or too old to run. So I'm still looking to be a wife, and find the real love of my life. The plot revolves around 2 Americans taking a vacation in Scotland, where they stumble upon a village that appears for one day every 100 years. The town of Brigadoon is fictional, but is named after a real-life bridge, the Brigadoon, in the south of Alway, Ayrshire, Scotland. It is also the setting for Robert Burns' poem, Tam O'Shanter. The choreography also incorporates traditional Scottish elements, such as a sword dance, a chase scene, and a funeral dance. The themes of the show revolve around the emptiness of city life and the simplicity of country life, as well as the idea that love transcends time. this is hard to say, but as I wandered through the Lee, I felt for just a fleeting moment that I suddenly was free of being lonely. Then I closed my eyes and saw the very reason why. I saw a man with his head bowed low. His heart had no place to go. I looked and I thought to myself with a sigh, there but for you go I saw a man walking by the sea. Alone with his thoughts was he. I looked and I thought as I watched him go by, there but for you go I. Lonely men around me, trying not to cry, till the day you found me there among them was I saw a man who had never known a love that was all his own. I thought as I thanked all the stars in the sky, there but for you go I. Brigadoon opened on March 13th, 1947 at the Ziegfeld Theatre, which was unfortunately torn down in 1966 to make room for the Burlington House, a lifeless corporation building, though, fun fact, the first ever cell phone call was placed from its roof. It ran for 581 performances and was eligible for the first ever Tony Awards, where Agnes DeMille was given a Tony for Best Choreography. There have been 4 Broadway revivals, 1 New York City Center revival, and 1 revival at one of my favorite New York theaters, the Irish Repertory Theatre. There have been 2 movies made, one in 1954 with MGM, and that featured Gene Kelly and Sid Charisse. However, both of the songs I sang in today's episode were not in that movie because they deemed that Love of My Life was too risque for those audiences, and the other one didn't feature Gene Kelly's voice well enough. There was also a movie made for TV in 1966 with Robert Goulet and Sally Ann Howe. The finale of Brigadoon is more of a sweeping instrumental, but there are some really beautiful lines to close out the show. When you love someone deeply, anything is possible, even miracles. Thank you so much. See you next week.